Hello everyone. Today we're going to go over how to make a Watch Night Crusade list, launching it. We're going to go over the rules of forming a Crusade list for narrative play, and we're actually going to go through and actually show you how this Imperial list, consisting mainly of the Watch Knights, is brought about for use in Crusade play. And I hope you enjoy this broadcast. So the first thing you do when making a Crusade list is turn to page 306 and 307 of the main rule book, where we're going to go over how we go about making our Crusade. First thing is you pick a Crusade faction: Imperium, Chaos, Eldari, Tyranids, Orcs. Basically, everything has to, in your Crusade force, has to match that, have those keywords. In other words, you can have Space Marines and Astra militarum and Imperial Knights. Chaos can have Chaos Space Marines, Chaos Demons, and Chaos Knights. All of those units share the same faction. They can all be included in your order of battle, which is the next big thing, your order of battle. All right, is a list of units that are part of your Crusade force. You can add and remove units from your order of battle at any time. Each unit must have a Crusade card. Units cannot be changed once they're added to your order of battle. And your supply limit starts at 50. The combined power ratings of all your units in your Crusade force must not exceed this. Now, a couple quick things here. What it means a unit cannot be changed, that means if you start off with a 10-man squad of tactical Marines and you gave one of them a flamer and one a missile launcher, you cannot change them for a plasma gun and a las cannon later unless you spend requisition points. Your supply limit starts at 50. That's the recommended. You can start higher if you talk it over with your friends, say you want to start at a larger amount. Your order of battle is not necessarily what you're going to play. Early combat patrol games are only 25 power levels. So this is basically your roster from what you have to pick from in order to play games. And every game you play, you get one requisition point. Now, kind of an important note is you start off with 5 requisition points. 5. You cannot have more than 5. 5 is your limit, okay? And you gain 1 requisition point every game. Requisition points can be used to do certain things, and we'll go over that here in a second. So you start at 50 power level. That's your order of battle. That's what you use as your list from which you draw on for what you're going to use in each game, and then you go from there. Okay? And with that, we're going to go over the requisition points real quick, and let's go over what that does. In true GWE's layout fashion, requisition points aren't found until 8 pages later on page 316. This is very important for the beginning of the game, or beginning of launching your Crusade, because you start off with 5 requisition points and you're probably going to want to spend some right off the bat. Now, the first one we're going to go over here is increased supply limit, 1 requisition point. All it does is it increases your supply limit by 5 power level. That means instead of 50, if you spent 3 requisition points, you'd be starting with 65 power level. Okay? Another thing you can do for 1 requisition point, say you started off with a unit, fresh recruits. You started off with a unit of only 5 intercessors, and you want to up it to 10. But once a unit is committed onto the thing, that's where it is. In order to up it, you are going to have to spend a requisition point and then pay the power level difference, and boom, you can now have fresh recruits. Rearm and resupply. Okay. This allows you to change war gear. When I said earlier that you could, once you pick, say, on a 10-man tactical squad, the missile launcher and the flamethrower, you can't change it. Well, for 1 requisition point, yes, you can change what they're equipped with. Repair and recuperate. Now this is a big one. You have to take out of action tests. You can end up with battle scars, things that, debilitate your units in Crusade. The way to get rid of them is to spend a requisition point on repair and recuperate. Then we have psychic meditations. Now, when you pick your psychic powers, you pick your psychic powers for the whole Crusade. So if your guy knows 3 psychic powers, you pick which 3 you have, and that's it. You can't change it unless you spend this requisition point to change it. Now, another major factor is the warlord trait. You don't start off with any warlord traits. You have to pay a requisition point to give your character a warlord trait. And here's where it gets a little interesting. By giving them a warlord trait, you now give them a campaign point as well, because they have a warlord trait, or it's the same as like being blooded or gaining additional abilities. Now, warlord traits, you can have multiple characters with warlord traits on the table at the same time, and all those warlord traits are active. You paid the points for them. You paid the requisition point to get it, so you're allowed to use that warlord trait even if you have another character who also has a warlord trait. Both will be in effect in that game. Now, the same goes at the beginning. You can also give them a relic for 1 requisition point. Right off the bat, right out of your codex, it'll also add 1 crusade point, though, to your character. Now, where crusade points matter is when you go to actually play a match. You compare your crusade points with those of your opponent. If you have 6 crusade points and your opponent has 2 crusade points, the difference is 4, and they get half the difference in command points. So your opponent only had 2, you have 6, will get 2 command points additional to use in the match. If you had 8 command points and he had, say, only 3, there's a 5-point difference. You round up. Your opponent would get 3 command points then to play out against you more than you for that game. And that is basically how that works. As you can see, your requisition points are very important. You only get 5. 5 is the max you can have, and you can spend them quick. And you pretty much gain 1 requisition point per game. There are different Crusade games that allow you to gain additional requisition points, and they're a vital part of the Crusade system. And with that said, we're now going to start going over our creation of a Watch Knight chapter crusade. It consists of the Watch Knights, and initially it's going to consist of an Imperial Guard or PDF regiments that they have shanghaied to accompany them on crusade for use. And we'll start that here in just a second. All right, and let's get started here with creating the chapter and the crusade list. Before we get into it, I'm just going to say this once. I am not a pro painter. I've never claimed to be a pro painter. I paint to a quality that I think is good enough for tabletop. I enjoy it, and that's good enough for me, so why don't we just leave it right there? Okay, thank you. So, the Watch Knights chapter is an Imperial Fist successor chapter, uses Imperial Fist doctrines. I am, right off the bat, going to spend 3 of my 5 requisition points to increase my supply limit. So instead of coming up with a list of up to 50 power level, I will be going up to 65 power level. And my first pick is a 6 power level Captain in Gravis armor, Captain Drusus. I am spending an additional requisition point to give him Storm of Fire. He's going to be leading the 4th company of the Watch Knights as it is launched out on a crusade alongside an Imperial Guard force or PDF force that's been conscripted to help them try to stabilize the area around the Great Rift. Eventually I want to make him, using, as he gains battle honors and that, make him the master of the fleet. But here he is at 6 requisition points, and I spent, 6 power level, and I spent a requisition point to give him the Storm of Fire Warlord trait, and that is all we have for that to begin with. Our next unit is a 5 power level librarian in Phobos armor named Tarsus. His psychic powers are Smite, Mind Raid, and Shrouding. His main abilities are, I did not spend any points to give him a Warlord trait. He is a backup character. He basically is accompanying guard forces and Shadow Spear strike teams in order to use Mind Raid in order to gain intelligence on enemy movements and help pinpoint areas for the chapter and the follow-on Imperial Guard forces to strike. So he works frequently with the Guard, but he is not a member. He does not have a Warlord trait. And he was only 5 requisition points. Next up, we have a 6-point Infiltrator Squad, Shadow Spear Infiltrator Squad, that is used to scout out and create openings for the Imperial Guard to open up. They're also used in counterinsurgency warfare alongside Librarian Tarsus, and that's 6 more points. We then have a 5 power level Eliminator Squad, again accompanying Shadow Spear units, going to take out enemy characters and disrupt command and control and take out strong points with well-aimed sniper fire to allow the follow-on forces to pour through as they've been opened up. And that was 5 power level. We then have a 5 power level Assault Intercessor Squad with chainswords and heavy bolt pistols, with the exception of the Sergeant, who has carrying a plasma pistol. These are to add regular forces to go with Captain Drusus as they back up the accompanying Imperial Guard forces on Crusade. And that was 5 power level. Then at 6 power level, we have a Aggressor Squad. They've been outfitted with the Flamestorm cannons. They are, again, more of a support unit for the Imperial Guard and accompany Captain Drusus as they make their way through. And that was 6 power level. Now for the Imperial Guard elements that are accompanying the Watch Knights, we went with Valhallan Doctrines. So they are very hardy and they have a tendency to be rather grim. So first off, we spent our last requisition point to give our company commander, a Captain Wingate, a Warlord trait, which would be Grand Strategist. As you can see, Captain Wingate will be leading the Imperial Guard detachment. Next up for HQs, for 2 power level, we picked a Primaris Psyker named Raven. He knows Smite, Night Shroud, and Psychic Barrier. And he is an additional HQ for the Imperial Guard units. Next up for 2 power level, we get Lieutenant Warwick. An elite choice, just a lieutenant who's going to lead the 1st platoon of the Anglican Rifles as they go on crusade with the Watch Knights. And for those who are wondering, yes, this is an old Warzone mini from the 1999 board game. I had a ton of them, and I ended up making one of my 2 Loyalist Imperial Guard armies with them. So if you were wondering where these models come from, and that's where they come from. Yes, there was some modifications done to these models to get them to fit more in 40K. Then for 3 power level, we took an infantry squad. This would be Infantry Squad Alpha. They're equipped with las guns, except for the sergeant who has a las pistol, and 1 heavy bolter team. And There you have the 1st Infantry Squad. Then you have, for 3 requisition points, Squad Bravo. And it's equipped the same as Alpha. All las guns with the exception of 1 heavy bolter team. And then for 3 more requisition points, we have Squad Charlie, which is the same as Alpha and Bravo. Again, all las guns, 1 heavy bolter team. And at last, at 3 additional requisition points, we have Squad Delta, equipped the same as the other 3. Now, at this point, I think I need to add something about how I'm planning on running this crusade list. I know some people don't want to go through the bookkeeping and hassle of keeping track of each and every squad. That said, with infantry squads like this, I'm not going to level them up. I'm not going to give them basic experience because odds are they're not going to survive, so I'm not going to bother with the record keeping with them. They're going to be wiped out. I'll just, drop them from the list for 3 and gain 3 power level, and then add them back in at 3 power level and call them the same thing. They just will never, ever, ever gain experience, never really advance, and it kind of fits for just the meat and the grinder for Guard. I'll do it for the company commanders, the characters, and some of the vehicles, but for basic squads like this, for Imperial Guard, which with the armor of a tissue paper, I'm not going to do it with the following exception. If I'm playing a game and one of these squads does something spectacular, then I probably will keep that squad and begin leveling 1 squad just because they've already accomplished something. I'll single them out and just see how far they go before they start, degrading and going downhill. That would be it. I'd basically pick 1 squad to be a veteran squad based on their performance in game. So it just saves me a ton of bookkeeping, and I'm not saying you have to do it that way. I'm just saying that's how I'm going to do it, and I recommend it for anyone who does not want to do an overly involved amount of bookkeeping. Then for 7 power level, we took a Basilisk. Our Basilisk has the Earthshaker cannon, and as you can see, it is equipped with the Heavy Flamer. And there you go. That was 7 power level. And then for our last 6 power level, we picked up 2 armored sentinels equipped with las cannons for use in anti-vehicle hunting. As you can see, they'll eat up a fast attack spot, and that concludes what we have for the Astra Militarum, our Imperial Guard forces accompanying the Watch Knights on our initial Order of Battle muster. We have 0 requisition points. You have a 65 power level Order of Battle to show for it, and then hopefully here in the near future you're going to get to see a few games with these units in play, and we'll show you how to level them up and how to advance them through Crusade, and also let you see some narrative battle reports where you see what they're up against and how they do. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit like and subscribe down below. Thank you very much.